Welcome to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast, your go-to resource for personal development and coaching. I'm your host, Leticia Ringe, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm Leticia Ringe, your coach and host, and in today's episode, we'll be talking about my favorite phase of the business cycle, which is the second phase, which is all about validating your world-class offer to $10,000 in revenue. Now, the reason this phase is my favorite is because this is the phase that is the hardest, needs the most support, and also leads to the best results long-term for your business. And it is essential for creating a world-class offer and a world-class business. So a world-class offer, again, is an offer that you love to deliver, that makes a difference, that you're proud of, that is a unique contribution to your niche and industry, and is one that allows you to continue exploring your zones of genius and potential. Now, we want a world-class offer because our business should be built around our offer, which is the product or service you provide. And I highly recommend that you start with one world-class offer for your business, that you validate that to $10,000 in revenue, and then you move it through the rest of the business cycle, which I explained 2 episodes ago, which looks like the third phase, which is all about growth, growing that offer to $100,000 in revenue. And then the fourth and final phase is growing that offer to $200,000 in revenue, or whatever your goal is and beyond. Now, we have to begin with a clear offer on the table, and that's the first phase. So I went through that in the previous episode. I highly recommend that every single person go back and listen to that episode before you listen to this episode, because I can almost guarantee that some really important considerations have not been considered and will get in the way of you growing and scaling a world-class offer. So go back and listen to that episode, answer all the questions in relation to your world-class offer, and then move to this episode and to solving the key problem that we solve in the second phase of the business journey, which is all about validation. Now, before I dive into today's episode and tell you all the things you need to know about validating your world-class offer to $10,000 in revenue, I want you to know that this is the way you create a 6-figure, a multiple 6-figure, and a scalable business model. You have to start with validation. Now, most people want to rush ahead to growth. They want to build a 6-figure business, but they don't even have an offer that is bringing in $10,000 in revenue. Or they don't have an offer that is bringing $10,000 in revenue that they actually want to deliver and grow over the long term. We have to solve this problem first, because otherwise you are building on a very weak foundation. You will need to eventually change your offer because it won't be sustainable if you don't want to deliver it for the long term. Or if you do like delivering your offer, but you still haven't got to $10,000 and you're seeking business advice for building a 6-figure business or a multiple 6-figure business or even $1 million business, you're learning strategies that aren't relevant for where you are right now in the business journey. And this will only make you getting to where you want to go take even longer. Now, I love supporting women, particularly women who are purpose-driven, heart-centered, those who work in or adjacent to the coaching and personal development industry, or those who are passionate about coaching and personal development, because you tend to be heart-centered people who want to make a positive difference in the world. I love helping you to make money doing the thing that you want to do, because making money is how you get to actually deliver the thing that you want to do. It's how the people that you want to serve and that you've designed your product or service to serve get served. You have to be able to sell to them. And if you can't sell to them, which is one of the number one things we have to do as business leaders, then you don't get to deliver and therefore make an impact and make that difference on your community. So your product and service is how you help them. And in order to get them into the product or service, you need to understand how to market and sell. You'll also need to learn how to deliver your offer and to deliver it really well, and to get better at delivering that offer And you'll also eventually need to learn how to create possibly a team, systems, processes around that offer so that you can manage all the people that you're supporting. But at this phase in the business journey, the only problem you need to learn how to solve is how to market and sell your offer so that you have sold $10,000 worth of sales/revenue into that offer. What this means is if you have an offer that is $1,000, so each person who buys it pays $1,000 in exchange for the product or service that you are offering, then you need to make 10 sales before that offer is what I call validated. Now, the reason I talk about $10,000 in sales is because this, as a general rule of thumb, is a really good amount of money to receive into your business or sales to make into your business to know that, one, this is an offer that people want, and two, that the way you're marketing and selling it is working. And by sticking to $10,000 rather than shifting your offer too quickly, you get to understand what really works so that when you move into the third phase of the business cycle, which is all about growing your offer from that $10,000 to $100,000, you now have validated marketing and sales strategies and a process that you know works. And so now the problem you're solving is how to grow that. And so we answer that problem in a different way, or we solve that problem in a different way to what we're doing in this phase. This phase is more about having a starting strategy, executing that, analyzing the feedback, tweaking it, and sticking to that strategy for at least 90 days so that you can test if it works. You may need to try a different strategy after the 90 days, but you've got to give it a chance to work first. We'll talk more about this in a moment. Whereas in the growth phase, you already know what works. Now you need to work on bringing more leads into your community. So this is where you really focus on community growth and your funnel and really taking the validated processes to the next level. You'd also be focusing on really validating your offer in terms of delivery. So after you've got those sales, and perhaps alongside the sales that you're validating to $10,000, you're also learning how to deliver the offer in the most effective way. And as you grow and scale, you will continue to make that process even more effective. And that's what keeps you competitive in the market as well, which is what we do together when I work with my clients. I call that intentional professional development. So that is a process that works alongside the whole business cycle to ensure that there is a quality product and that you're remaining competitive in the industry. And also creating something that's truly niche and industry leading, which is how you stay fulfilled as the human being behind your business in terms of what you're delivering. And it's also how you stay in business, no matter whether you've got really large financial goals or you consider them just sort of, average. You just want to have enough to sustain yourself rather than wanting to go for those bigger financial/impact goals. Whoever you are, you need to have a business that remains competitive, and you must have a quality product or service. And that's never about creating something and having it stay the same forever, because we, like our clients and the market, is always changing, growing and evolving. And so we have to remain adaptable while also staying focused on continuing with this one world-class offer for your business. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't ever offer anything else. You might, but for the most part, the way that you create something truly world-class is sticking with it over the long term. I talk more about that in previous episodes, so if you haven't listened to the rest of the World Class Business series on the podcast, please go back and have a listen. Okay, before I dive further into today's episode, I want to remind you that I have a program called World Class. It is for women in business. You might be working in the coaching and personal development industry, or you might be in service to the coaching and personal development industry, or you might simply be passionate about coaching and personal development and your business falls outside of the coaching and personal development industry. I support my clients with both business and leadership coaching and mentorship, as well as life coaching, because in order to create a business that truly allows you to thrive, we also have to look not only at practical business strategy, but also at how you thrive as a human and also how you thrive across your life. So I take a holistic approach to the way I support my clients. I also take a female-centered approach. I specialize in women's leadership, working with your body, your cycle, your intuition, your mind, as well well as teaching you how to create a financially successful business that also is on purpose, heart-centered, and in alignment with allowing you to express and explore your potential in terms of the work that you do. So if you're interested in that approach to business and you want someone who's going to support you holistically, World Class is the space for you. And in this program, you get not only one-to-one coaching with me over 5 months, you also get a business mastermind with other women in business, also committed and devoted to growing a world-class business. It doesn't matter where you are in your business journey right now. I partner with 12 to 15 maximum women at a time to support you to grow your business. In each season, no matter what's happening, maybe you're in a maintenance season, maybe you've got things going on in your life, maybe you're in a growth phase, maybe you are starting, validating, growing, or scaling. Doesn't matter where you are. Perhaps you've got one offer or many offers. Doesn't matter where you are. I give you both the business mentorship as well as the life and human support to thrive in business. And we've just changed the start date for those of you who want to still join us, who were not able to join us in July, so that you're able to now join before the 1st of August. So if you want to get in for 2025, we have a few spots available. Otherwise, we won't be starting the program again until 2026. Because this is the first time I'm running World Class, you're also getting a huge discount. So if you want one-to-one coaching support as well as a mastermind, this is the program for you. And you can submit your application at leticiaringe.com/she's world class. Okay, so let's talk about validating your world class offer to $10,000. So again, for every single offer you ever have on the table in your business, anything that you're selling, your product or services, you need to take that product or service, each individual one, through the business cycle. This means you need to start the offer, which would be all about putting a clear offer on the table. In my previous episode goes into the 8 considerations you need to make in order to do that successfully. Then you'd need to validate that offer, which is the second phase that we're talking about today. Then you grow the offer, and then you scale the offer. Every single offer individually needs to go through this cycle in order to be successful. I recommend you always start with one offer at a time, bring it through the whole business cycle. And then if you really want to expand your business to another offer, you then do that after you've already learned how to do that whole cycle with one offer. Or you might take one offer through the whole cycle and then decide, hey, actually, I've learned a lot about what I want to deliver, and I want to change the offer quite significantly so that it's a new offer I'm selling to a slightly different person, in which case you'd be starting that cycle again with a new offer. So validating your world-class offer to $10,000. This is the second phase in the business journey. Like I said, you must have a clear offer on the table and have factored in the 8 considerations I talk about in the previous episode. Once you've got that offer on the table, now you need to market and sell that offer. Validating means having sold. So you want to have sold $10,000 into that offer. Like I said before, if your offer is $1,000, that looks like 10 sales. Or if your offer is $2,000 per sale, that looks like 5 sales. The skill that you need to master during this phase is conversions. So how do you take someone from being in your community to being a paying client and having paid you for your product or service? The one business problem that you have to prioritize solving is, how do I validate this offer to $10,000 in revenue? The result you want by the end of this phase of the business journey is a validated offer, which means an offer that has sold $10,000. Okay. And what you'll have as a result of that is a validated marketing and sales process that you can grow, which is what you need to be able to move into the third phase of the business cycle, which is to grow your offer then to 6 figures or whatever your goal is if it's less than that. So what you need to know is first that each offer, what it takes to market and sell each offer in your business is likely different. And this is why we look at the business cycle in relation to one offer at a time. This is why I recommend you focus on building, growing, and scaling one offer at a time, because what it takes to actually market and sell that offer effectively will be different to another offer in your business that may be to the same exact person, like as in it's the same ideal client, but because the offer is different, there will be differences in the way you market and sell that most effectively. So we don't want to focus on trying to validate multiple offers at once. We just want to focus on one. So if you've got multiple offers in your business right now, or multiple offers that you're thinking of selling, I want you to pick and focus on just one. And to make this the most effective and efficient, I recommend you pick the one that is most significant. So look at how much revenue each of your offers have brought in and choose the one that's brought in the most amount of revenue. Or if you don't like delivering that offer and you're thinking about changing it, then pick the offer that has brought in the most revenue that you enjoy delivering the most. Now, that's also kind of a little bit tricky, because it could be that you don't enjoy delivering your offer for reasons that we can change so that it is something that you enjoy. But if you really hate it and you want to deliver something else that you're offering is more heart-centered and what you ultimately and truly deeply want to offer over the long term, then it would be my suggestion to go with that one. Okay, so there are 6 things I want you to know about validating your offer to $10,000 in revenue. The first is you want to begin with a starting strategy and commit to that strategy for 90 days. The reason you want to do this is what we're doing in this phase of the business journey is we are testing a strategy to see what works. Now, this is where working with a business coach is really, really incredibly helpful at this phase of the business journey, because it doesn't matter who you work with. Your coach, your mentor isn't going to know what is going to work. They can't read the future, but what they do have is industry knowledge. They do have lots of options they can talk through with you, and then you can make the best decision based on what you know you'd enjoy executing the most, and also what you know your community would most likely be the most aligned with. So we would start there. This is so valuable for you because most likely what you're doing in this phase is comparing yourself to what you're seeing other people doing online. And what you don't realize is that those people have a different offer to you. They have different gifts, they have a different community, and also a lot of them are not in the validation phase. They're in the growth or the scaling phase. So they're actually implementing strategies that make sense for where they are in their business, that make sense for their unique offer, for their client that they're selling to. So working with a coach is so valuable in this phase of the business journey for a variety of reasons, which will make sense by the end of this episode. But because for some of you, it's either at the beginning of your business journey, or for others, it's at the beginning of your offer journey, you might think, I need to validate the offer or the business first before I invest in support. But the truth is, this is where it's the most valuable, because it is the hardest phase of the business journey, and it's where most business owners fail and give up. It's where most business owners end up spending way too much time because they're not getting support, and so they get stuck in this phase instead of moving on to the growth phase. So if there is one phase that I recommend you get support, it is in this phase, and do it sooner rather than later. For me, I spent 2 years trying to do this on my own, and I had so much knowledge. I was doing all the things. I'd done business courses. I'd worked with a life coach. I'd done so many things, but it wasn't until I worked with a business coach that I actually took my offer and my business to something that could actually meet 6 figures and could actually then go on to scale. I was struggling to get beyond $20,000 in my business, and I was doing that over multiple offers rather than just focusing on one offer and learning how to really validate, grow, and scale that. Once I learned how to be more mature in the way I run my business, that is where everything changed, and I was able to meet 6 figures and then multiple 6 figures. So this is why I spend a lot of time teaching women how to validate and how to move through the business cycle, because it really is the piece that you need to learn. And it is where you will get the most value in terms of support, but it's also the place where the most people don't get support because they're waiting to get evidence that it works before they go ahead and get support. But it's like this chicken before the egg thing. Okay, so the first thing you need to know is that you're going to pick a starting strategy to market and sell your offer, and you're going to commit to that for 90 days. The reason we want it to be 90 days is that is enough time to test to see if this strategy actually works. If after 90 days of you consistently executing this strategy and testing and tweaking it and analyzing the feedback, which we'll talk about in the moment, if it's still not working, then you can shift to a different strategy, but not before. And you also wouldn't decide that your offer is the problem by this phase either. So a lot of people during this 90 days of a marketing and sales strategy, they think that there's something wrong with the offer. So they keep tweaking the offer rather than staying with the offer and staying consistent to marketing and selling that offer with a particular strategy for 90 days, giving it enough time to work. And then if it's still not working, you can try another marketing and sales strategy. And if after 90 days in that strategy, it's still not working, then perhaps there is something wrong with the offer. But for most of you, you will know that there's nothing wrong with your offer because there are other people out there successfully selling it. So rarely is it actually a problem with the offer, but our brains tell us that that's what's the problem. But really, it's that we're just not sticking for long enough to a marketing and sales strategy and giving it enough time to actually work. The second thing you need to know is that the whole point of this phase is testing. So you're not supposed to get it right. There isn't one marketing and sales strategy that is perfect or right and that you will know ahead of time. What will happen is throughout the 90 days and the way that I teach you how to validate, you will land on a marketing and sales strategy ultimately that works for you and your business or is optimized to work in the most effective way for you and your business. It's not going to be what you start with. It's going to look a little bit different by the end of the 90 days. And it'll either work to validate or it'll work in other ways in terms of the other metrics we're looking at, which help us to get to validation. So it will need tweaks, and you'll only know what to tweak through analyzing feedback, and you'll only get that feedback if you execute the strategy. And all of this only works on the basis that you stay consistent to executing that particular marketing and sales strategy that we decide upon. So we're testing during this phase, which means you have to be okay with failure because some things will work and other things won't. Actually, most things won't work. But over time, through the process, you will land on something that works in the best possible way for you. Now, this is where it gets mentally and emotionally tough because you're learning to be able to deal with failure, to hold failure and keep moving your business forward when things aren't working and when they look like they'll never work. And this is why working with a coach who specializes in mindset as well as understands the somatic aspect, the body aspect of mindset work and alignment and what leads you to not being able to execute from an emotional point of view is really important. And that's something that I specialize in with my clients. So we are focused on testing in this phase. When you move into the growth phase, you're no longer testing. That's not the focus. The focus there is implementing to a deeper degree what is working, what we know works. So in the validation phase, this is where you've got to get really good at testing generally. And what you need to know, again, is that any person you have supporting your business, no matter how experienced they are, they do not know what will work for your business. This is where things get really tricky because you will think that someone else has the answer. They don't. The answer comes through the testing. Like that is the right thing to be doing. And the only way we get the information we need is through sticking to your strategy for 90 days as a minimum, and then doing obviously the execution of that strategy so that you get the feedback in order to tweak it. And that is what the testing process looks like. Okay, number 3 is that you then need to make sure that you're executing the strategy, and you want to do this consistently and neutrally. What this means is you want to be very clear on what actions need to happen in order to execute the marketing and sales strategy that you decide upon for the next 90 days. And then you want to show up and you want to do those things each day that you're supposed to be doing them. You want to have as little variation as possible other than when you're testing something that you're newly tweaking within that strategy so that you know what works. If you try to change multiple things at a time for that strategy, you won't know what works if you start getting results, and you won't know what you shouldn't have changed if you start getting worse results. So you always want to be changing just one thing at a time, and that requires you to be consistent in what you're executing unless you know specifically, hey, I'm tweaking this thing to give me some information about whether it works even better or worse. And then we make decisions from there. So that's the consistent piece. Now, the neutral piece is if you are executing even consistently the actions you need to take, but you're believing that these aren't going to work, or you have a lot of negative energy behind those actions, that is going to have an impact on the results you are able to see. Because if you're looking for negativity or proof that it's not working, that's what your brain is going to be looking for. Or it's going to be really hard to execute, particularly consistently, the actions that you need to take because everything within you is telling you not to do it. So you've got to get really good at maintaining a neutral mindset as well as a consistent set of behaviors. And this is all about knowing what you need to do, deciding what you need to do, staying committed to what you need to do, and getting your mind and body on board. This is what I specialize in supporting my clients. And when I talk about growth and transformation and how to have a positive relationship with growth and transformation, this is what I'm talking about, because you are currently committed to everything that's happening in your business right now, all the things you're doing and all the things you're not doing. This is on an unconscious level. So your body and your mind are committed to everything being exactly as it is. For you to change that so that you're committed to a 90-day strategy, so that you're consistently executing the actions that need to happen to execute that strategy and to commit to it for 90 days and to be neutral in that execution, you need to go through a growth and transformation process in order to do that. So I teach conscious transformation. There's 4 phases, and it's all about aligning your body and mind, as well as being able to utilize your intuition through the process, right? Because you're going to get information from your intuition about moves to make as well. And the way you're going to hear that is when your mind and body is not fighting against you through the process and trying to steer you in the wrong direction, which is back to what you were doing in the past. So there's so much support that is needed there. And in my opinion, every business owner needs support when it comes to their body and mind, what we call mindset, in order to show up in the best possible way, and particularly in this phase of the business journey. Now, the 4th thing I need you to know is that once you're consistently and neutrally executing, you then also need to be regularly analyzing the feedback. So what this looks like is getting really good at looking at the data and the metrics. So you need to know what data and metrics you're looking for and what data and metrics actually show you that you're moving towards validation. Because what you're validating is a process. Taking someone from being in your community to being a client is a process. They go through a series of steps that can be broken down into data points that you get feedback on, and then you're able to assess what pieces of that process or a funnel you need to tweak or optimize in order to make this process ultimately work to validate your offer. For example, you might have a client come into your community through your social media, and then you're directing them to the next piece of your funnel. There are data points that you can look to assess whether that step is actually working. Then beyond that, there are a series of steps before that person becomes a customer. If you're trying to assess whether the whole process is working, it will always be a no, because there will be aspects of it not working and aspects of it that are working. Even if a client signs up, if you repeat that entire process, there will be pieces of it that probably don't work for the next person and other bits that do work. And you need to know what is working and what isn't working so you can change the things that aren't working and you can keep the things that are working. This is all about analyzing feedback. And this is where business knowledge, mentorship, and coaching is extremely helpful, because you, as the leader of your business, as the person delivering your offer, will be very emotionally attached to your offer. And it makes it really difficult to objectively look at feedback. Plus, analyzing data and metrics and feedback is something that you won't likely be skilled at. This is where working with someone who is skilled at that is really, really helpful. And then you learn that skill so that you have it for the rest of your business journey. And even when you have this skill, it is still really helpful to have someone who is objective, a partner in your business, like a coach or mentor like me, to be able to support you through that process, to help you make neutral decisions in your business and to help you see the things that your brain isn't allowing you to see because of what it will make it mean if it were to see the feedback, the data, the metrics in their neutrality. Now, the fifth thing I want you to know is that once you've got the feedback, what we do is we tweak. And we're not tweaking multiple things at once, because if we do that, then we don't know whether it's working or not working, what change is working. We need to know specifically, is this change that I just made working, one element at a time? Now, this is difficult when it isn't working because you want to change a million things. So again, to make great decisions, this requires mindset support as well as strategic support. What would be the most optimal change to make in order to validate this offer in the most efficient way possible? So making those decisions is what I call tweaking. And this again is where having a partner in your business is going to be really incredibly helpful. Now, the sixth and final thing I want you to know is that in this phase of the offers journey in the business cycle, it's important to use the community that you already have, or to focus on building community in the most efficient and effective way. And we're not focused on building a big community here. We're focused on just simply attracting enough leads, i.e. people, so that you can then move them through the marketing and sales strategy that you're testing. Now, what so many people get wrong is they try to focus on building a big community at this phase. They think that they need to have a certain amount of followers, subscribers, like the people who are in your community, before you can actually sell enough places in your program. What I want you to know is that I sold $200,000 in 1 year into my business with a community combined across all of my different platforms of less than 2,000 people. There is an amazing essay online. I can't remember the person who wrote it, his name, but it's called 1,000 True Fans. And it talks about, in order to have a really successful business, you only need 1,000 true fans. Now, most people are comparing themselves to celebrities, influencers, and people who are famous on social media and online. Now, what you don't know is whether those people are actually financially successful in what they do. Are they also successful in terms of being fulfilled in what they do? A lot of them are not. And also, you don't see all the people who aren't online or who have much smaller audiences who are actually way more successful in a holistic definition of success as well as the financial success, because what they focused on was validating first rather than building a big community. This is the wrong way to go about it, and it's how so many people get stuck in never hitting their financial goals or delivering to the amount of people they wish to deliver to. So you want to use the community that you already have. If you've already got a community full of ideal clients in front of you, you want to start with those people. And if you have no one in front of you, then you want to ask yourself who would be the easiest people to have access to, and start with a marketing and sales strategy that will meet them first. You do not focus on growing a big community or a bigger community, and you don't focus so much on leads until the third phase of the business journey. Okay, so they're the 6 things we need to do in this phase of the business journey in order to achieve our result, which is $10,000 in sales or revenue in one offer in your business. This is when I recommend you get yourself support to help you through this whole process. And now I'm going to give you 9 questions that you can ask yourself in order to implement what we've learned about in this episode, and also in order for you to see where you might need support the most. The first question is, do I have a clear offer on the table? If you don't, go back to the previous episode, and if you're going to bring on support, get someone to support you to put a clear offer on the table first. I can do that for you in World Class. The second question I have for you is, how much revenue have I made through this offer? It's really important to know. If you haven't made any revenue through your offer and you've got a clear offer on the table, then what you need to do is validate it. If you've sold less than $10,000 into that offer, you also need to validate this offer. If it's more than $10,000 and you want to go ahead to grow and scale that offer, you'll move to the next phase, which I'll be talking about in the next episode. The third question is, have I sold $10,000 or less into this offer? If yes, then you need to validate. Fourth question, what is my starting marketing and sales strategy? If you don't know the answer to this is something I can support you with in my program World Class. The fifth question is, am I executing that strategy neutrally and consistently? If you're not executing the strategy neutrally and consistently, this is the thing you need to change ASAP, and I can help you do that both on a body-mind mindset level, as well as strategically, practically in terms of business support and mentorship in World Class. 6, what feedback am I getting? If you don't know what data and metrics to look at and what to focus on shifting and tweaking and testing, this is where you need support, and I can support you to do that in my program World Class. Question 7, what is and isn't working? Again, if you don't know how to answer this, I can support you in World Class. Question 8, what is one thing I can tweak? Again, if you don't know the answer to this is something I can also support you with in World Class. And question 9, what behaviors get in the way of this validation process? It's really important for you to highlight which of your behaviors lead you to not sticking to a 90-day strategy, to not testing or to avoiding testing, to not consistently and neutrally executing, to not analyzing feedback, to not allowing yourself to tweak one thing at a time, to not focus on the community you already have in front of you. Whatever those behaviors are the things you need to grow, change, and evolve. And this is what I can support you to do in World Class. So my beautiful friends, this is everything you need to know about validating an offer for your business, whether it's a signature offer, a world-class offer, or just your next offer in your business. If you'd like support, head to leticiaringe.com/she's world class. This is where you can apply for my World Class program. And again, enrollment is open until the 1st of August. You want to get in as soon as possible because I only work with 12 to 15 maximum women at a time. And this will be the last opportunity to work with me in 2025. All right, my beautiful friends, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you in my next episode. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the Create a Life That Is Beautiful podcast, your go-to resource for personal development and coaching. To deepen your learning and practice, make sure you're subscribed to receive our community newsletter. Subscribe at leticiaringe.com/newsletter. And if you haven't yet left a 5-star review for the podcast, we ask that you please do that now so that this podcast can reach other listeners who also want to join us in creating a life that is beautiful.